Joni believes in Miss Denise Boggs. She starts to tell her many things. Miss Denise is someone this family trusts. She was Marcus's friend before he died, and she would stay that way unless something became different. Because of this, Miss Joni Lamb went to see Miss Denise and told her a lot of different things. She would send and receive texts from Doug Weiss. She would talk about what Doug Weiss had said. Joni Lamb also felt like telling Susie Lamb about texts that Doug Weiss sent her. For these two holy women, Susie Lamb and Miss Denise Boggs, these were quite scary. It was a problem before they got married that Doug Weiss would say things that were really sexual. Because she was a prophet, Miss Denise wrote a letter to the family that was a very serious warning. A very important message. It is known that Miss Denise Boggs has a prophetic voice. This is what she said about Joni and Daystar. I'm writing this letter to the Lamb family with a sad heart. This past week, I met Joni before the baby shower. I was really scared as I heard her talk. It seemed like I didn't know her. It looks like she has been possessed by a spirit that lies. A woman of God said something to Doug that she thought was very rude. But she laughed as she told me. It made her seem happy, which wasn't the Joni Lamb I knew before. If you give in to praise that makes you feel good, you are being tricked and seduced. When you fight spiritual wars, you can tell who your enemy is by the things their evil spirit does. An attack from a spirit of lies makes the person being attacked lie. A spirit of trickery uses flattery to get in the door first. A man will charm a woman to find out where she is weak. Once charm tricks a woman, she can be used against her will. Galatians 5 verse 1 says, "Do not associate with the useless works of darkness. Instead, rebuke them." There are two things we can do when darkness is at work. Either to laugh at it and get along with it, or to face it. This is why charm comes before lying. When someone gives in to flattery, they get stuck and tricked. The enemy can get to your weakest spot through the flattery. I want to add right now that this is so true. What the Bible says is that sin brings birth to more sin. Brings death. It finds your weak spot and uses it to control you once you get to the deceptive area, where you have eaten from the fruit of that lie. While they were just getting to know each other, I told Joni that I was worried about Doug. This is the start. This is the time when Joni dates Miss Denise Boggs. She has told her that she hears voices from the future, and that is true. I told them what I thought right from the start, when they first started. I told her we were dating, but she wouldn't listen and supported him. This is when I became scared. I was sure she had been tricked by a spirit. And sometimes it takes a long time to get over these spirits of lies. What I warned her about was something she had once said she was very sure of. When someone has a spirit of lying on them, they start to change right in front of your eyes. They seem like people you no longer know. I think that was the worst thing the family could have imagined as they started to understand. Which meant they no longer knew Joni. They had no idea what was going on. No matter how many times Miss Denise Boggs tried to set up a meeting with Joni to offer her a home like powwow and help with what was going on, she was unsuccessful. It did not happen. It was not going to get through to her. If you've been paying close attention, you know that the one time they did get to meet in person, Joni gave them all about 10 minutes and then she just said, "I see Faye." Faye, she said. "This is what you all have here, Faye. I'm going to New York to be with Doug. Never heard of people going on trips before they get married. It's just cool. Something interesting takes place." Okay. What I warned her about was something she had once said she was very sure of. People start to change right in front of your eyes when they are under the influence of a spirit of lying. I no longer know them. They say things they've never said before. That's why I want to say how worried I am about Daystar. This is an attack on Daystar. People who watch Daystar will not be fooled because Marcus and Joni set such high standards for it over the years. I'd like to talk about this part because I know we've talked about a lot of history and seen things. We all know that Marcus made a huge mistake when he cheated on his wife for 8 years. I've always said that after that I saw real regret. I also think that the way that the people who sued AI because they lost their jobs and made accusations about Jonah's father and other things like that were treated was wrong. Yes, I think Marcus and Joni did something wrong when they dealt with that. I did see Marcus turn away from his sins. Feist, you could tell he changed his ways and all of that. Another thing that was hard was having to forgive. It's also possible for the enemy to take advantage of times when we don't fully pardon. Which is what I mean when I say that Joni truly forgives Marcus. For sure, a very hard thing. So they stayed together, and Miss Denise is saying that they left something behind. They did make it through that. All of that was beat. They also had a family, with children who were now married and starting to have grandkids. And there was the building for the memory. Jonathan would be the next person to go. Miss Denise was saying that this was a reliable name, and that if you tuned into Daystar, you would hear the word of the Lord. And it's all getting mixed up. This is how I want to get my point across. Miss Denise says that Marcus and Joni pushed Daystar to be so good over the years that people won't be tricked. It turns out they weren't. At this point, they knew for sure that Joni had done things in her relationship with Doug that fans did not like. I know this too, personally, because when I went to the set of Daystar, Joni told me that some people were very upset while I was sitting there as a show guest. They wrote in, but they weren't getting her relationship with Doug. I didn't know Doug at all at that point. I hadn't been watching Doug's shows on the show. To be honest, I didn't watch Daystar very often. I also had no idea who Doug was. I had no idea why they were mad. In any case, I think he was divorced, which can happen for a number of good reasons. There's just not a good one for Doug's split that we can find. That's what she told me. And Miss Denise had said that people wouldn't be fooled. Oh no, they weren't. They will be able to tell the lie. When people see how Joni has changed, they'll know something is wrong, and the number of people watching will drop by a lot. These are Miss Denise's words. Viewers have, in fact, dropped by a huge amount. They will be able to tell the change in the new leadership. Marcus Lamb was the leader of the Daystar family. He stood for what was right and true. The Lord has shown me that Doug is being used by the enemy. What the bad guys are having Doug do. Suppose Joni gives into the trick and lets Doug take charge. Wow, the people who watch Daystar will see right through this trick. There have been some worries, you know. Let me take a moment to reflect on what I just heard because it hit me so hard. Of course, there will be health problems if Joni gives into the pressure and lets Doug take charge. No way we'll ever find out the truth about any of that. Do not hold your breath. That being said, if Joni got hurt or sick and couldn't do her job, would she give Doug control of Daystar? Doug, who said he didn't. He said, I've already taken everything from that man. I don't want his tie. When he was offered a tie, he went to Marcus's funeral first to look into the coffin because, as he put it, he wanted to make sure the man was really dead. He was really there. If Doug Weiss would have actually become the head of Daystar, would that ever happen? Most of the choices that have been made in the last year I can't explain. $1 million raise in pay and blow up the place. That's what took place. So Miss Denise says, he is a wolf. She also says this about Doug. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing. He is not qualified for such a high position. He is being used by the enemy to bring Daystar down. Joni didn't agree with divorce until Doug lied to her. The enemy has used the Daystar platform to. One of the most popular Christian TV networks in the country was used to make fun of the marriage covenant. Wow, that line is something I've never seen before. I believe the ridicule is what makes people angry. It makes marriage look silly. Marriage can fail, but when it does, you generally say, I'm sorry. You don't say, no, we have biblical grounds. It was meant to be this way. What a joke. Yes, Miss Denise says, my view of Doug changed after spending a few days with him. I told her that the problems in his first marriage needed to be dealt with before he got married again. Now, Jonathan gave this letter to the Roy Report, and I think you can read all about it. I also encourage you to get updates and the full picture from the Roy Report, which does a lot of work to literally autopsy what happened here. Miss Denise talked to the family members who knew that. Doug had counseling with her because Joni Lamb asked her to meet with him. Why? To fix his first marriage, or is it his second? We're not sure. We think it might be his third marriage right now. We don't know. The internet is full of information about that. Anyway, Joni Lamb asked Doug to meet with Miss Denise for counseling to fix his marriage too. There was hope that Doug Weiss and Lisa would get back together and say their vows again, maybe in Vegas. So Miss Denise meets with them and tells them, your mom agreed that they would listen to me at first, but once Jimmy Evans fully approved of Doug, she told me that they would not be interested in talking to me. Jimmy Evans is the guy who picked on Jonathan Lamb so badly. Incredibly, the spiritual abuse has forced him to change his whole ministry. I have no idea what's going on with him. I never hear anything about him anymore because he also decided, without talking to Lisa Weiss, that Doug had such a strong case for abandonment or whatever they want to call it from Green Eyes. Green Eyes Lisa is very sexually compatible with Jimmy Evans and runs the show. Jimmy Evans never talks to Lisa Weiss. Talks to Doug when he agrees. And then Joni told Miss Denise that they didn't want to talk to her anymore. I wonder if that's when Joni decided to sell Poppy's house, which was a ministry center run by Miss Denise and blessed to her by Marcus Lamb. It was a place where she could do her healing work and minister to people from Israel with her gift, her prophetic ability. Joni Lamb then sold Poppy's house, which was very mean. She could have just left that, but she didn't because she didn't like what she was saying. Miss Denise says, after spending 3 days with Doug, I fully understand the deep-seated problems that led to the breakdown of his first marriage. What's scary is that what ended the first marriage is now being accepted without question. When I saw your mom on Friday before the party, she went over all the names of the people who were supporting your marriage to Doug again. I see warning signs that other people don't see about root problems. Friends of Joni, you should pray that you never have friends like that who can't help you or whom you can't see. He says, time is short. Enjoy the time. Do it. We can't wait any longer. Do it now. How much did she know about Doug Weiss? Those who help. And Kendall knew something about Doug Weiss. I don't think much. Jimmy Evans only knows what Doug wants him to know about him. This is something that Jonathan brought up. Jonathan said, he says what he wants you to hear. Also, doesn't Doug seem a bit like that car salesman? Who are we to believe in Doug Weiss? The Doug Weiss who told Green Eyes how much he loved them. The Doug Weiss who said she did a great job with everything. That Doug Weiss or the Doug Weiss who said that doing this is not honorable. Not being honest. I guess. Do we believe that Doug, the one who screams, or the one who talked for years and told Lisa how much he appreciated her work? To be fair, I think they kept things together in their business as well. They didn't tell the people they were counseling that they were now split or separated. Which Doug do we believe? Miss Denise says Jimmy Evans knows Doug based on what Doug wants him to know. So, Jimmy Evans is supporting this marriage even though he doesn't fully understand what happened in the first one. Also, Joni didn't want to hear from the person who did know Miss Denise. Get Poppy's house sold. She is a prophet, so make her pay for it. If you don't know what really happened, how can you be sure that he is safe for Joni? The people who trust Joni, her health, and her honor are all in danger, as well as the family heritage. Could you read that again? Pay attention to this. Joan's health and well-being. The millions of people who trust her honor, and the family history are all in danger. Jimmy Evans needs to understand how important it is for God's kingdom. They should be prayed for. If you want to be smart, I will pray that you don't hit the minimize button when you get a check. You've been in trouble with Marcus for years. Prayers are being said for Daya. You will forget about the hurts you've caused in the past and become one. That's the only way to make your mom see the truth. I'm ready to meet with all of you and talk to your mom on your behalf. Denise, I love all of you. She did try, though. Now the number of watches is going down. As she said, there are huge problems with health. I have faith in more than just Joni. It's a tough time of year. She got her big check, but everyone else has left. We showed you a list of everyone who has left. Everyone needs to walk in fear of the Lord. Since we don't honor God and hear His words clearly, and I know that when deception strikes, it's only after you've done something you knew you shouldn't have. There's no way to get away from it. You have a choice right now about whether to sin or not sin, about whether this relationship is right or not right, about this addiction, etc. If you want to do something you know is wrong, you can do it. And then the moment you really start doing that, it lets that lie in. And then you don't know how to get out of it. That's where we stand with Jai.